What once sounded like a fairy tale has become yesterday's nightmare. The frogs are gone. Their worlds are silent. Their cities stand empty, but they left a warning. The Voidborn are real. They whisper in the darkness. They wait behind the stars. They turn minds against themselves. Cliff Alistair McLane is a legend. His grandson commands the Orion 20, a new ship, a new crew, a new mission. The Voidborn are still out there, patiently waiting. Let us accompany the Orion 20 and her crew on their patrol service on the edge of infinity.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ignition! Between the stars we ride, Orion 20 on the edge of the tide. Faster than light, we cut through the black, carrying fire on our backs. The frogs have gone, their signal is dead, but something ancient woke instead. Whispers from the void, cold and vast, we chase the future into the past. Orion 20, we blaze the trail, the new frontier. There's bars and walls of fear. Alien shadows, secrets near. We stand together, crystal clear. Orion 20, the grandson's call echoes on. The force in space can make us fall. We are the fire, we are the dawn.
Act 5, The Long Way Home. The dead-end system was silent. No satellites, no colonies, no signs of frog habitation, just a dying star, a few barren planets, and the Orion 20 drifting in the darkness, its crew exhausted, its supplies dwindling. Torben stood at the viewport, staring at the alien stars. Behind them, the vortex had closed. The web that had brought them here was damaged, perhaps destroyed. There was no going back. "Status report," he said. Kaya answered from her station. "We have supplies for 12 days, maybe less if we ration." "And the web?" "The satellites are dormant. The GSD's shots damaged the constellation. I might be able to reactivate it, but—" she paused. "Even if I do, it will only take us back to the colony, back to the GSD." Torben shook his head. "We're not going back. There has to be another way." "There is no other way. The frogs built the webs as one-way transmitters. Each constellation is paired with a specific destination. Without a receiver web on the other side, we cannot." "Then we build one." Kaya stared at him. "Build a web? That's impossible. The frogs built their constellations over centuries. We have weeks, maybe days." "We have the shield. We have their records. We have you." Kaya was silent for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. "I'll try." The research took 3 days. Kaya worked through the nights, her fingers flying across the console, her eyes fixed on the frog data. The rest of the crew helped where they could, mining asteroids for raw materials, repairing damaged equipment, keeping watch. On the 3rd day, she found something. "Torben," she said, her voice soft but urgent. "Come look at this." He moved to her side. "What is it?" The frogs didn't just build webs, they built a network. Thousands of constellations spread across the galaxy. Some of them are still active, Some are dormant, some are damaged. She pointed to the screen. There's an active web in this system, on the far side of the star. Active? Why didn't we detect it before? Because it's not a transmitter, it's a receiver. The frogs built it to catch ships coming from other systems, but without a transmitter on the other side, it's useless. Can we use it? Kaya shook her head. A receiver web can't create a vortex. It can only receive. We would need a transmitter to send us somewhere. Then we build a transmitter. The satellites. We don't need satellites. We have the Orion, we have the shield, we have the resonance emitter. He looked at her. We become the transmitter. The modification took 5 days. Kaya worked with the engineers, rewiring the Orion's FTL drive, integrating the shield technology, calibrating the resonance emitter. The crew watched helpless as she poured herself into the work. On the 5th day, she was ready. The emitter is calibrated, she said. When we activate it, it will send out a pulse, a frequency that the receiver web can detect. The web will open a vortex. But the destination is unknown. The frog's records are incomplete. Torben looked at his crew. We have no choice. We cannot stay here. We go. He turned to the helm. Activate the emitter. The pulse went out. Across the system, the receiver web woke. 12 satellites dormant for centuries began to glow. Energy pulsed between them, building, focusing, creating a vortex, a tear in the fabric of space. The vortex is forming, Kaya said, but it's not stable. The frogs built these webs to receive, not to transmit. The corridor may be rough. Can we navigate it? I don't know. The shield will protect us from the worst of it, but the destination, she paused. I don't know where we'll emerge. Then we find out. Torben turned to the helm. Take us through. The Orion 20 raced toward the vortex. The transition was rough, rougher than before. The hull groaned. The lights flickered. The vortex seemed to twist, to tear, to fight them. Inside the vortex, the viewport showed nothing but swirling energy, yellow and orange and red like the heart of a dying star. The ship shuddered, its systems straining, its crew holding their breath. Shields at 60%, Kaya reported. The vortex is putting pressure on the hull. We can't take much more. How much longer? I don't know. The corridor is shifting. The frog's network was never meant for this. Torben gripped the command rail, his knuckles white. Keep us together. The ship emerged from the vortex with a violent lurch, throwing several crew members from their seats. The viewport cleared, showing a field of unfamiliar stars. Jump complete, Kaya said, her voice shaking. We're at, I don't know, the star is not in our databases. Torben looked at the scanners. Are there any colonies, any outposts? Kaya's fingers flew across her console. There's something. A structure on the 4th planet. It's artificial. Frog, probably. Abandoned but intact. How far? 2 days at current speed. Torben looked at his crew. They were tired, frightened, but still together. Then we go. We find what the frogs left behind. And we find a way home. The journey took 2 days. The 4th planet was a frozen world, its surface covered in ice and rock, its atmosphere thin and unbreathable. The frog structure was buried beneath a glacier, hidden for centuries, waiting. The crew suited up, full environmental gear, oxygen tanks, thermal insulation, and descended into the ice. The structure was a research station built into the bedrock, its walls covered in the familiar frog script. Kaya moved to the main console, her fingers flying across the interface. The lights flickered, hummed, came to life. This station was part of their network, she said. The frogs used it to study the webs, to map the corridors, to understand how they worked. Did they find a way to control them? Kaya shook her head. No, the webs are fixed. Each constellation leads to a specific destination, and that destination cannot be changed. But they did map the network. They knew where every web led. She brought up a diagram on the screen. It showed a chain of webs, system after system, connected in a long, winding line. Each system needed 2 webs, she said. One to arrive, one to depart. The frogs had to build both. Sometimes they could not. Some systems have only a transmitter, some have only a receiver, some have none at all. Torben stared at the diagram. How many webs did they have to go through to reach the edge of the galaxy? Sometimes 12, sometimes more. The network is not efficient. It was not designed for speed. It was designed for survival. The frogs built webs where they could, when they could, as they fled. Is there a web in this system? Kaya paused. Her fingers hovered over the console. Yes. There is a transmitter web on the far side of the system. It leads to, I don't know, the destination is not listed. Can we use it? The web is dormant. The frogs shut it down centuries ago, but I might be able to reactivate it. She looked at him. It will take time, and it will be dangerous. Do it. The reactivation took 3 days. Kaya worked through the nights, her focus absolute, her hands never still. The rest of the crew helped where they could, running diagnostics, repairing equipment, keeping watch. The system was empty, but they could not be certain the GSD had not followed them. On the 3rd day, the web powered up. 12 satellites, arranged in a precise formation around the dying star, began to glow. Energy pulsed between them, building, focusing, creating a vortex, a tear in the fabric of space. The web is stable, Kaya said. The vortex will open on my command. Where does it lead? I don't know. The destination is not in the records. It could be a colony. It could be an empty system. It could be a dead end. A dead end. A system with no outgoing web. The frogs built many of them. They were mistakes, or perhaps they were planned but never finished. Her voice was quiet. Those who entered never left. Torben looked at his crew. They were tired, frightened, but still together. We have no choice. We cannot stay here. We cannot go back. We go forward. He turned to the helm. Take us through. The gate loomed ahead, its 4 struts glowing with stored energy. Kaya watched the readings, her fingers poised over the console. The web is drawing power from the sun, she said. It has been collecting energy for centuries, enough for a single jump. The ship approaches at slow FTL speed, Kaya continued. Just enough to trigger the web sensors. The web releases its stored energy, creating the vortex. The ship's own drive does the rest, but without the web, the jump would be impossible. The energy required is too great. Engage, Torben said. The Orion 20 moved forward, its FTL drive humming at minimum power. The web's sensors detected the approach. Energy pulsed down the 4 struts, converging at the center. A vortex opened, yellow and angry, a wound in the fabric of space. The ship plunged into the vortex. The transition was rough, violent, rattling the hull and shaking the crew. The viewport filled with swirling energy, with the impossible geometry of hyperspace, with the darkness between dimensions. Then it was over. The ship emerged in another system, the vortex closing behind them, the stars steady and familiar. Jump complete, Kaya said. I recognize this system. It's near Freeport. There's a colony here. We can resupply, we can rest. Torben let out a breath he didn't know he had been holding. And the GSD? No sign of them. They don't know we're here. Then we rest, we resupply, and then we find a way home. The colony was called Haven. It was small, a few thousand people built on a rocky world at the edge of the system. The colonists were independent, suspicious of Earth and its politics. They had no love for the GSD. They offered the crew shelter, food, and silence. Torben stood at the viewport of the Orion 20 staring at the stars. Kaya sat at her station monitoring the long-range scanners. Rolf was in the engine room making repairs. The others slept. "Captain," Kaya said, her voice soft. "I've been thinking about the webs." "What about them?" "The frogs built them because they had no other choice. They were desperate. They were fleeing. They built what they could when they could as they fled. And we are doing the same." "Yes, but we have something the frogs didn't have." "What?" "We have each other. The frogs were alone. They had no allies, no one to help them. We have the colonies. We have the shield. We have the truth." Torben nodded slowly. "And we have a ship, a crew, a mission. The Voidborn are still out there, still waiting, still patient. Then we will be ready. We will learn, we will prepare. We will find a way to stop them." Kaya looked at him. "And the GSD?" "The GSD will fall. When the people learn the truth, when they see what the Voidborn are capable of, they will turn against the GSD. It will take time, but it will happen. And until then we survive. We explore, we protect. That is our mission now, not to fight, not to conquer, to be ready." The Orion 20 lifted from Haven, its engines burning bright, its crew rested and resupplied. Behind them the colony faded into the distance. Ahead the stars stretched on. Torben stood at the viewport, his hands clasped behind his back. Kaya sat at her station, monitoring the scanners. Rolf was in the engine room, keeping the ship running. The others worked at their stations. "Captain," Kaya said, "I've found something." "What?" "A signal. It's faint. It's coming from the edge of the system." "Frog?" "I don't know. It's not GSD. It's not human. It's something else." Torben leaned forward. "Can you trace it?" "It's moving slowly, like it's drifting. Or like it's waiting." Kaya looked at him. "What do we do?" Torben was silent for a moment. Then he smiled, a thin smile, tired but there. "We follow it, that's what we do. We follow the signal, we find the truth, we keep going." He turned to the helm, set a course, best speed. The Orion 20 engines flared. The ship moved into the dark. The story continues.